Welcome everybody to my video preview of Wrestlemania 28. I know I said I was going to post this on Sunday, but then I thought, well, the card might not be complete yet, and we still don't have all the members of Team Long and Team Ace, so I thought I'd wait until after Raw, and then after the SmackDown spoilers come out, and then I'll think about doing my video. But everything's complete now. It looks like we're going to have the 8-match card this Sunday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, which is a strange day to have a wrestling event. Hopefully it doesn't match up and become appropriate to hold it on April Fool's Day. I remember when WrestleMania 18 was on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, and that was pretty badass. And it also, WrestleMania 10 fell on my birthday, which was pretty cool too. But, yeah, WrestleMania 28, my overall impressions is that it's not a bad card. I think the main events in particular are very strong. The undercard, yeah, you know, whatever, but I think the main events are strong enough to make this WrestleMania interesting and to make it worth checking out. So hopefully that delivers, and hopefully WrestleMania 28 turns out to be a good show. I'm going to be here today to talk about my feelings on the build-up, my predictions, and other loose ends here and there regarding WrestleMania 28. So let's get started with the match that I am least interested in. Isn't it funny how the Divas match as a main event bumper has sort of become like an annual tradition for WrestleMania? I don't know, I just think that's kind of weird. It's like they always have to have a shitty Divas match, and it always has to be a bumper between the main events. After like a really, really good match, they have to have the Divas matches to sort of cool everybody down and get them ready for another big match coming almost, you know, probably right afterwards. And it's always shitty, it's always a piss break, and it's very rarely ever built up well. And usually nobody cares about it. I honestly haven't given a shit about a Divas match at WrestleMania since Mickey and Trish at 22. So it's been 6 years. And this one's really no different. This year it'll be Kelly and Maria Menounos from Extra teaming up against Beth Phoenix and Eve Torres. Now, last year when they used Snooki, I didn't like it, but I understood it because at least people know who Snooki is, and the Jersey Shore is famous for whatever reason, and Snooki's having her 15 minutes of fame that has gone on way too long already, but okay, whatever, I get it. It's the Jersey Shore and they're famous, whatever. But Maria Menounos, I honest to God have no idea who this chick is. And they've used her before, apparently. I don't know when and I don't know where, but apparently WWE's used her before. And I honest to God have no idea who she is. I was just looking at her like, who is this chick? Who is this celebrity that they're using? I don't know who this person is. Am I that sheltered? Should I know who Maria Menounos is? Apparently she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. And I'm like, who the fuck is this person? I don't know. It's kind of sad. But, yeah, I don't think she's exactly the best celebrity guest to get for WrestleMania. She might be a step up from the Miller Lite Catfight girls, who I remember when they used them, I thought, wow, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But that's about a notch above Kathy Griffin, really. But, you know, they're going to be doing this match. It's going to be a piss break. It'll probably be bad and, you know, not memorable. And that's really all there is to say about it. As far as the prediction goes, I mean, the celebrity is almost undefeated in wrestling, which makes no sense if you think about it. But the celebrity almost always wins. So, based on that, and the fact that Kelly wins almost all of her matches, you got to go with Kelly and Maria Menounos to win this match. And at the end of the day, none of us are going to remember it, and I probably spent way too much time talking about this match already, so let's move on to the next one. This is kind of sad, but I might have even less to say about this match than I did about the Divas match. Randy Orton versus Kane, which really does feel like they thought, okay, we have to get Randy Orton on the card. We've put a lot into bringing Kane back in the mask. We don't really have anything for them, so let's just throw them together for a WrestleMania match. And that's what it feels like. I know they've referenced some match that they had last year where they shook hands afterward or whatever, and Kane felt like he'd become human, which, again, I always love. Again, going back to how many times they've tried to revitalize Kane, I remember when they took the mask off of him to bring him back as a monster, and now they're putting the mask back on him to bring him back as a monster. So maybe you've just run out of ideas with Kane, and it's time to kind of move on and find another big guy. Just a thought. I mean, create another monster. You don't have to keep going back to the Kane well. But Yeah, I really don't care about this match. I really don't. Orton's kind of been on the outside looking in as far as the main eventers go. Neither guy is really setting the world on fire at the moment. And I just really don't care. I wonder if the Mania plan was to do some kind of burn-off to Orton and Barrett, but they did that match on SmackDown, so I don't know. And at the Royal Rumble, they treated it like it was kind of a throwaway thing anyway, so maybe Barrett's injury kind of derailed Orton's Mania plans. I don't know. I doubt it because of what they did, but God, I don't even know what to say. Like, Kane's matches, I don't even like that much, so it's not even like I'm expecting a good match out of them either. This match really does remind me of Kurt Angle versus Kane at WrestleMania 18, where it's just... It feels so randomly put together, because it feels like they felt like they had to use both guys, so they're just putting them together because they don't have a better idea for them. And the end result will probably be a lackluster match that nobody remembers next year. Randy Orton's going to win. That's my pick. I wouldn't be surprised if Kane won, but the smart money is probably on Randy Orton to win, and that'll be the end of that, I guess. All right, next up is the 6 versus 6 battle to determine the general manager of both Raw and SmackDown. You got Team Teddy Long with Captain Santino Marella, Booker T, R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, Zack Ryder, and the Great Khali. And you got Team John Laurinaitis, which will be Team Captain David Otunga, which, by the way, David Otunga, Team Captain, that's just wonderful. David Otunga, Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, The Miz, Drew McIntyre replacing Christian, and the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. And those will be the two teams. And I have to say, and if you've watched my videos before, you know how I feel about this, I do not give a shit who's in charge of the show. And I don't mean that in this particular instance. I mean that generally, across the board. I don't care who runs the show. And I don't know why wrestling companies keep doing these angles based on power struggles and heel bosses and evil bosses trying to, abuse their power and shit like that. Look, it worked for Austin McMahon because it had never been done before. Since then, it's become old hat, it's stale, and I don't care anymore. I practically hated TNA for 2 years because that's all they did. It was a power struggle angle, and that's all it was for 2 years. That and a stable, which, stables are overplayed. And TNA's going back to that because their main angle for Impact right now is, will Hulk Hogan accept the GM job? Look, I don't care. And in this case, if Teddy Long wins, what happens? Teddy Long runs the show. If Johnny Ace wins, Johnny Ace runs the show, and he's going to be the heel boss, and he abuses his power, blah, 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 whatever. Who cares? The format of the show isn't going to change, not really. The only thing that changes is who's going to be favored, the heels or the baby faces. That's it, and that's gotten old. And I've said it a million times before, can we just go back to the Jack Tunney days, where the only times we saw the authority figures were when it came time to make important announcements or when it was time to settle controversies. Let's remove the authority figures from any personal involvement in what's going on, or at least a driving force of the storyline, and just focus on the wrestlers. That's what I want. Can we center the stories around the wrestlers? And it's one of those things, and I kind of said it with Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler last year. They have time to do this, but we can't have a tag division. Just saying. They have time to do this, but a cruiserweight division is completely outside of their abilities. And various other things. There are tons of things they could spend their time on instead of these stupid power struggle angles. Who was the Raw GM that was behind the laptop? I don't know. I don't care. Is Triple H going to be in charge, or is Johnny Ace going to be in charge? Don't know. Don't care. It really isn't vital to me who runs the show. And I've probably just babbled on long and long enough. And because I don't care about this angle, I don't care about this match, because the end result has no meaning for me. Will the match be good? It might. It'll be a finisher fest, which I've heard a lot of people describe it as that, and that's what it's going to be. I'm sure the guys that are in it will at least try to make it good, but they didn't even, do a good job of setting up the characters for it. Ziggler and Swagger are just kind of there. Santino's only in it because he's over. Miz did this whole thing where he was trying desperately to get on the Mania card. They jobbed him out 5-6 weeks in a row, And then he comes out and just randomly attacks somebody. It's like, oh, you're in. It's like, that's all he had to do? Why'd you make him look like a bitch for 5 weeks? I mean, what was the point of that? Miz and R-Truth have a feud going back to the Awesome Truth split, and that got dropped, and they were in the same match here, and nobody seems to notice. That's not even a story point. God, what else? Zack Ryder, it's nice to know he survived his vicious attacks from Kane to make it onto the Mania card. He's just in there for this because he's over, basically. Then they replaced Christian with Drew McIntyre. That right there is the truth, the proving point that it really didn't matter who was in this match because everybody's pretty much interchangeable anyway. They replaced Christian with Drew McIntyre, and it really doesn't make that much of a difference. And I love Christian to death, but for those complaining about the beating he took at the hands of CM Punk, look, Punk needed to look good heading into WrestleMania because he's the champion, and they did that. They did a very good job of doing that, and the beatdown looked very good. Christian is expendable, and any chance of making him a larger-than-life main eventer, I think the window of opportunity is closed on him. It's like Daniels in TNA. It's like, I love it when people tell me that Daniels is an up-and-comer and he's over 40 years old. And look, maybe there was a point in time where he could have been a main event star, and Christian definitely had that in 2005, but it's too late now. The window of opportunity is closed. He's 39 years old, Christian is. And, you got to start thinking that his best years are behind him. Yes, he can have a role to play, but, I mean, any chance of making him a larger-than-life star, I think, are done. And you got to start finding other guys, I think. But, yeah, I mean, Christian was pretty much interchangeable, and he got traded out because his injury didn't heal up. So, again, I thought they did a very good job of making Punk look good for that. And losing Christian isn't exactly going to spell doom for this match, and him being in it didn't make this match any better. It's just an undesirable situation that I don't care about. I don't care who runs the show. I don't care who's in this match, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Who's going to win? It's going to be Johnny Ace, because WWE is a hard-on for him. And they'll want to get more out of him being the evil boss, because that's what we all want. And the only positive I see in this is that maybe with them finally having one GM, it means that they're moving towards ending the brand split, because they basically have ended the brand split. They just didn't tell anybody. They haven't made it official. But, trying to tell us that Raw and SmackDown are separate shows at this point is just a farce and a joke. So, move away from that, and hopefully having one GM was, again, another step towards moving away from that. Once they unify all the belts, they've already unified the women's titles and the tag titles, which is good. Just unify all the belts and just have one roster, because you basically do now anyway, and stop pretending that there's a brand extension, because it's not true. But other than that, I don't really give a shit about this match. And I would probably open up WrestleMania with this, just because at least, all the entrances will get pops and stuff. And it will be, I assume it'll be an action-packed match, just because of, there's 12 guys in it. How can it not be? But, yeah, I've already babbled on long enough about this. Let's move on to the next match. Okay, and this next match, at least in terms of its build-up, has been kind of a diamond in the rough in this WrestleMania. I really have enjoyed how they've built up Cody Rhodes versus The Big Show for the Intercontinental title. First of all, it's an Intercontinental title match. We've sort of been conditioned over the last decade, maybe longer, to not really give a shit about the Intercontinental title at any stage, much less WrestleMania. So for them to put any kind of effort into an IC title match is actually pretty good. They've run with Cody as champion. It's been kind of stop and go with him, but they've tried to make him look good, at least promote him better than they have most other Intercontinental champions. So okay, that's good. And in this build-up, he's been great, highlighting all of Big Show's failures at WrestleMania. And I'm just thinking, wow, it's actually kind of good for Cody, because it's kind of revitalized him as a character, because his career. Legacy was a missed opportunity for both him and DiBiase. I do feel like they both should have been used a lot better. My comment of how they were used in Legacy was that they were basically Bebop and Rocksteady, and that they basically were just the dumb henchmen that got their butts kicked all the time. And it's true. Go back and watch it. I mean, Legacy was getting their asses kicked every week. And how many 2-on-1 handicap matches did they lose where they were the two? I mean, how does that work? But, whatever. So that didn't work out as well for Cody as it should have. Then they did the dashing thing, which I wasn't a big fan of, because it felt like a character trait that they were just forcing onto him. that didn't really make a whole lot of sense in terms of anything we'd seen from him before. It just felt like such a forced character trait to me. And then he did the Psycho thing where he was like, I'm not handsome anymore. And, you know, wrestlers are not trained actors. I've talked about that before in the past, and I don't think Cody was a convincing psychopath. And even if he was, him putting paper bags on people's heads was not exactly, you know, the mark of a psycho. You want to mark a guy as a total psychopath, and yet the height of his insanity is putting paper bags on people's heads. That's not exactly the most frightening thing in the world. So I wasn't a fan of that either. But now that he's moved away from that, and he's got this thing going where he's highlighting people's failures, and especially Big Show's at WrestleMania, I kind of feel like maybe that should be his permanent shtick, at least for now. Or, well, not, you know, not permanent, but, you know, maybe that should be his next long-term thing where every person he feuds with, he highlights all the failures of their careers. I think that would be fascinating. I think they could probably, if they ever do a feud with Goldust, they could definitely do that. There's plenty of Dustin Rhodes failures you can highlight in video packages. And it doesn't have to be WrestleMania either. You can just go back and look at their whole career and point out all the places where they were fuck-ups. So it's been really interesting to watch Cody, and he's been great on the mic. I thought on Raw this week his line about, it's like, please, Big Show, don't even try to chase me. That'd be like a water buffalo trying to chase down a cheetah. Not going to catch me. And I thought it was great for him to point that out, actually. So, yeah, Cody's been excellent. His character's been excellent, and it's really made me interested in this match. Will it be the best match on the show? No, but it might not even be the best match of the undercard, but they've done a much better job of selling this match than they have pretty much every other match on the undercard. And I really like the angle, and I really like what they've done with them. My fear, though, is that Big Show's going to win the title. And that's not what I would do. If you have to have Big Show get his revenge, what I would do is have him win by DQ. Or have Big Show get disqualified where he beats up Cody so bad that he just gets DQ'd or whatever. Something that results in Big Show, like, hurting Cody. Like, he could, like, chokeslam him through a table or some shit. I don't know. And he gets disqualified. It was like, alright, Big Show gets his revenge, but Cody gets to keep the title, and you can get to run with Cody as champion. That's what I would do. But I do have this fear that Big Show's going to win the title. Excuse me. So I'm going to pick Big Show to win, though hopefully it's under the circumstances that I talked about where he wins by disqualification, because I do think they've got something there with Cody that they could get a little bit more time out of. So hopefully that happens. Match number 5 for WrestleMania is the non-main event main event for a title that is erroneously labeled as a main event championship. It'll be Daniel Bryan defending the World Heavyweight title against Sheamus. I so don't give a shit. I mean, number one, this is the match that was deemed not good enough for WrestleMania last year, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to buy it as a main event. And let me start off by saying that a lot of the problems I have with this match doesn't reflect on the guys. I think Sheamus is a talented guy. I don't think he's exactly the hottest character in the company, and that's part of the reason why I don't see this as a main event. But it's just so uninteresting, and they, you know, the Intercontinental title match has more of a storyline and more of a feud than this one does. This one is basically Sheamus wins the Rumble, which I've said before was a mistake. And then once February hits and Bryan's still the champion, it's like, okay, we're going to interfere in each other's matches for a month. And then we're going to wrestle each other in fucking tag matches, which I've already talked about how I don't like this idea. It's like, all right, let's take two pay-per-view matches, put them together in a tag match, and we'll use that as a TV main event, because it's just lazy booking. And it's an old hat trick that really doesn't generate any kind of interest, and the match is going to be forgotten in a week anyway, and you're giving away interactions between the guys that are going to wrestle at the pay-per-view. So, again, I'm just rambling on and on. You know, I feel bad for Daniel Bryan being the World Heavyweight Champion, because he's basically a mid-card champion, and they try to say he's not, and fans don't want to say that that's the case, but the World Heavyweight title just doesn't matter. It means so much less being a world champion in today's current WWE setup, because you're sharing the label of number one best with somebody else, and one belt is going to take precedence over the other one. So, and right now that's the WWE title. Punk's the number one guy as far as who's the top title holder in the company. It's not Bryan. And even for Punk being World Heavyweight Champion doesn't mean as much because you have another guy running around claiming to be World Heavyweight Champion. It's a setup that just makes absolutely no sense. And again, they've dedicated almost no effort to trying to separate Raw and SmackDown as separate shows. So those points and things that I talked about are highlighted even further by the fact that both champions are on the same show anyway. It doesn't matter. They're fighting over a belt that doesn't matter. And again, if this were an IC title match, I wouldn't be saying any of this. It just feels so unimportant, and it's supposed to be a main event. Or they want us to think it's a main event, and it's not. It's clearly not. And this match just feels inconsequential. The only thing they could do with this that I would support would be Daniel Bryan retains the title, and then they set up Punk versus Bryan in a unification match later in the year. They've got to unify both those belts. I think this year they probably should have done it used my idea I talked about where it's Jericho, Punk, and Bryan in a three-way to unify the belts. Or maybe have Jericho win the Rumble, then he wins the world title in February, and then it's Punk and Jericho for both belts at WrestleMania. I mean, and what a waste of the Royal Rumble winner. I mean, it just feels like such an unimportant thing that I don't know. I don't care about this match. Now again, will the match be bad? No. I like I said, I think Sheamus and Daniel Bryan are good talents. I think they'll do the best they can to put on the best match possible. I wouldn't be surprised if they opened up the show like Del Rio and Edge did last year. Because again, nobody really cares. I mean, can anybody truly say, storyline-wise, that they're truly invested in this match? Because pretty much the only good thing that anybody has to say about this is that, well, the match will be good because of who's involved. So there's that. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if these two opened up the show. I know Sheamus said in an interview that we're two up-and-comers and we want to go out there and steal the show. First of all, you're not going to steal the show. There's no way in holy hell that you're going to steal the show. And second, I think it's kind of sad that a guy who's a two-time WWE champion and a guy who's the current World Heavyweight Champion are considered up-and-comers. Again, highlighting the point that being World Heavyweight Champion doesn't really mean what it used to. But yeah, again, I feel like I've given this match way more attention than it deserves. They've done a terrible job of building it up. I feel sorry for both guys. And I would be saying that no matter who was in this match. It's just, I do not care. They had more of a feud going with Daniel Bryan and Big Show. Again, I'm not saying it was the greatest thing in the world, but they had more of a conflict that they probably could have carried over to Mania. Why they didn't do that, I don't know. Cody's kind of reaping the benefits now, but it just feels like such an uneventful thing. It feels so un-WrestleMania worthy. I think that's the best way to describe it. Again, if there was no title on the line, if it was a mid-card title, I wouldn't be saying any of this. But the fact that they try to pass this off as a main event, to me, is almost laughable. So, who's going to win? Sheamus is clearly going to win. Daniel Bryan pinned him on Raw this week, which normally means, like, all right, Sheamus is going to win the belt at Mania, and they seem to be high on him. And the Royal Rumble winner has not won the title since, it's been a while, since Undertaker at 23. So it's been a while since the Royal Rumble winner actually won the belt at Mania. So this will probably be the opening match if I were to guess. And you'll probably get a title change. So enjoy. Okay, now we're moving on into the main events. The three really strong matches that I feel really make this WrestleMania. Like I said, the undercard leaves a lot to be desired, and yes, I do count Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus as part of the undercard or the midcard. But these three main events I feel are strong enough to make WrestleMania 28 worth it, and I hope they deliver because that's, WrestleMania 28 is really going to have to depend on these matches to really, put on a strong show. First up, Chris Jericho versus CM Punk for the WWE title. Now, I complained at first at how they were building it up. Like, number one, I'm sounding like a broken record here. Jericho should have won the fucking Rumble. That's number one. And then they shouldn't have wrestled in the Elimination Chamber match in February. I feel like they should have kept them apart from each other. And it really did feel like it was going to be like an Edge and Jericho situation at 26, where this should be an awesome feud, but they're doing everything in their power to kind of ruin it. But then the last few weeks, they've really stepped it up, I think. I really like that they've added this whole personal element with Jericho attacking Punk's family and bringing up his past demons with his father and his sister and all that stuff and calling him a bastard, which... Did that not remind anyone else of the Big Show Boss Man feud in late 99 when Boss Man was making fun of Big Show for his dad dying, which was so tasteless it was hilarious in a way. And Boss Man, he was past his physical prime at that point, but he was such an asshole back then that he was great. But does anybody remember that bit he did with Big Show's mom where he's like, he got Big Show's mom to tell the world in front of a camera that Big Show was a bastard child. And then Boss Man closes out the segment. It's like, Big Show, you're a dirty bastard because your mama says so. And I fucking loved Boss Man back then. He was great. But, yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. But they've done a really good job of making Jericho look like an asshole. And... I really like that he's doing it in these backstage interview segments where Punk can't get to him. So now it's kind of like they're building up anticipation to where Punk is going to get his hands on Jericho. And I think they've done a better job of keeping them apart lately. And I think that's really good. Again, they stumbled a little bit early on. Was Jericho's return handled as well as it could have been? The preview packages and the vignettes were great. The return... The Jericho thing was kind of funny, maybe dragged a little bit. He should have won the Rumble. They kind of flubbed it up heading into Elimination Chamber a little bit. But in the last few weeks, I feel like they've kind of pulled it back and they've made it back into a good WrestleMania-worthy feud. It's not the most revolutionary thing in the world, but it is classic heel versus face done really, really well. So it's, I think it's going to be really good. And... you have two talented guys, and I think they can go out there and have a really good match. Now, this match does need to come before Hell in a Cell and Rock and Cena, because I don't think it can follow those, because I think Hell in a Cell is going to be a violent spectacle, and Rock and Cena is the match that's been built up for a year and is most likely going to be the main event, which it should be. So, as long as it comes before those matches, I think it'll be fine, and I think it'll be a very good match, and I think it'll be a strong WrestleMania title match. Who's going to win? I don't really know. It's a tough decision. Up until I heard Jericho was signed through the summer, I would have said Punk all the way. Because they made it sound like Jericho was only going to stay until Mania, and that would be it. Which, if that had been the case, then definitely Punk goes over. But now that it sounds like Jericho's going to be signed throughout the summer, it's like, well, that leaves it up in the air a little bit, and it makes it more exciting. I don't know who's going to win. And either option would be great. If Jericho carries the belt, that's fine. If Punk continues... that's fine. And that's another thing. I think Punk, and I criticize them for kind of turning him into Cena. And lately, since they've started doing this new thing, and he's been getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and he beat the shit out of Christian on Raw this week, I think they've kind of stepped away from that a little bit. And that's been a lot better for Punk, and he's been cutting some better promos. Again, not revolutionary like he was last year, but it's better than it was where he was basically turning into mini Cena. So, yeah, thumbs up to WWE for this one. This is a really good title match to have, and hopefully the match delivers. I think it could be a very good match. I'm going to pick Punk to retain the title, though I could very well see Jericho winning it. So, yeah, I think kudos, A+ stuff here. I'm really happy with what the WWE's done here. They even after they fucked up, they managed to make up for their mistakes and do something good with it. So, kudos. I think this will be really good. Okay, I'm almost done with my WrestleMania preview, and it's time to cover the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Triple H, with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee. Now, I do like how they set this match up, and I like that it was a carryover from last year, and I did like a lot of the promo segments early on in setting it up, but lately, especially the last one they did, where they closed out Raw, they got into very long-winded, boring, weren't really saying anything of substance kind of territory. Undertaker being like a 3-year-old saying, "Remember when I said Shawn was better than you? He is." I'm like, how old are you, 5? And they were saying a lot of things like that, and after these really long and boring promo segments, but. It doesn't really hurt the match at all that much. I also have to applaud them for their preview packages. They did the one after the match was made official, where they showed a bunch of wrestlers talking about what the match was going to be like. And that was great. And the one they aired on Raw this week I thought was even better. That was a fantastic video package. And, you know, like I said, the segments themselves were getting so long-winded and boring that maybe they just ran out of things to say. So at that point, you know what? Just show video packages. It'll work. I mean, that's fine. So, yeah, that was great. And I'm okay with this match for several reasons. I've talked about them all before. I know a lot of people thought that it was uncreative to just do Undertaker and Triple H for a third time, but I think putting them in the Hell in a Cell freshens things up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what the cell looks like. I've seen some pictures of the Mania set, and it looks like it's going to be like, it's going to be black, sort of set up like the big blue bar cage used to be in the 80s, so I think that'll be an interesting look for the Hell in a Cell, because I really haven't liked the new one where it's like twice as tall, and it's just, I don't know, I just didn't feel like that looked as good. And you know, it'll probably be easier for Undertaker to climb it if it's set up like the big blue bar cage was. And I've said it before, I expect this to be a violent spectacle. I think they're gonna blade. You're gonna see blood. If any two guys can get away with blading at this point, it's Undertaker and Triple H. You know, and I do expect that aspect to it. I do think that they're going to try and go all out, and hopefully it's a really good match. And I do think that this is a WrestleMania worthy match, and you just got to hope it delivers. Now, if they do something stupid where Shawn helps Triple H win, or even dumber would be if Shawn helped Undertaker win, that would be dumb. And I hope that Shawn Michaels just being there, he's going to play a role in the drama, but I hope that he doesn't flat out picks the winner, because I think that would be a really lame way to end it. And Shawn, well, not Shawn, but I've said this before, Undertaker not only will win this match, I'm going to pick him, he needs to win this match just to keep the streak going, because I think having Triple H end the streak would be stupid. And the reason I say that is because you've got 2 decades built into this streak. And at this point in time, ending the streak would mean more than winning a world title. So if you ever end the streak, it's got to be given to somebody that you can build for the future. That could be somebody that could carry the ball for the next decade. Triple H is semi-retired. Giving him this win will do nothing. So all you're going to do is take 2 decades worth of build-up and throw it out the window and waste it on a guy who doesn't need it. So I would say definitely Taker wins, the streak goes to 20-0, and hopefully they have a really good, violent match in the process, because I do think that they could have a WrestleMania-worthy match. And it's nice to see the Hell in a Cell actually matter again after it's been bastardized through that stupid pay-per-view. We actually have a match that warrants the Hell in a Cell, and one that plays off the history of Hell in a Cell, because Undertaker and Triple H have sort of made their careers off of the Hell in a Cell gimmick. Undertaker kind of made it famous, and Triple H kind of became known as the guy that dominated in Hell in a Cell. And I remember he was undefeated in it for a while, and it seemed like he was in all of them for like a 3 or 4 year span. So yeah, the gimmick's totally warranted here, and that definitely helps. It isn't just some random gimmick match that they threw out there. So I do think that this is a really good match to have, and I just hope it delivers, and hopefully they make the right decision in who goes over. Undertaker needs to win. No shenanigans. No Shawn helps Taker win, which, again, I'm fearful they might do that. But I'm going to stay positive here. I'm going to pick Taker to win. No shenanigans, and it'll be a great match. And finally, for WrestleMania 28 is the main event, or what's very likely to be the main event. The match that they built up for over a year, John Cena versus The Rock. And to show you how much promotion they put into this match, I believe that WrestleMania 27 was used as a filler just to build this match. So that tells you how much they've kind of put into this, that they would use an entire WrestleMania as kind of a throwaway to just build this match up. But it's been very interesting to watch them build this up for as long as they have. It's nice to see WWE kind of dedicate themselves to a long build-up and a year-long promotion. Was it the best ever? Not really. They've stumbled and stopped along the way. Like, it was great to see Rock at Survivor Series, but the build-up to that match was shit. The match itself was fine. It was just the way they built that match up was kind of shitty. And then there was the Kane thing in between for Cena, which I guess doesn't really tie into this match, but it was they didn't always find the best things to do with Cena when he wasn't dealing with The Rock. But overall, I do feel this match does have that clash of eras appeal to it, where the Attitude Era fans are going to take one side, and the current fans are probably going to take Cena's side, even though is Cena really the guy you want to get behind as your guy? But whatever. But credit goes to Cena. I feel like he's really stepped up a lot more as a character since this feud started. Because before he's always this namby-pamby babyface, which in that documentary when he said, I don't pander to the fans, fuck you. You pander to the fans all the time. You're an admitted Boston fan, and yet you walked out there in Cleveland with a Price jersey on. Fuck you. Yeah, you don't pander. And there are other times he supported Zack Ryder only because the fans supported him. And CM Punk, they did the storyline where Punk beats him up and then cuts that epic promo. Cena comes out the next week and defends CM Punk, even though Punk ran him down and kicked his ass the week before. Why? Because the fans liked what CM Punk had to say, so he has to support CM Punk. So yeah, your character is totally a pandering little pussy. Don't even tell me that. But overall, I think Cena and his animosity towards The Rock, number one, it really does feel like they don't like each other, which that's an important aspect of this. That's really interesting. It really does feel like these two just hate each other, and that's great. And it really makes their personal interactions seem a little bit more real. It might be real. I don't know. I really don't know how they feel about each other. But, I felt like the segment they had a few weeks ago where they closed out Raw was so strong that it felt like a go-home show. And I was like, wow, what are they going to do for the next month? Since then, it's kind of cooled off. I wasn't a fan of the documentary that they did. I thought it would be more like something that UFC does, where they show people preparing for the fight, training, and talking about why they don't like the person that they're fighting or whatever. Actually, to throw a bone to TNA, I remember when they did their Before the Glory special for Bound for Glory 2009, I think that's one of the best things they've ever produced. Maybe the best thing. And it did a better job of building up the show and those matches than whatever it was they were doing on TV. So, yeah, that thing was great. And I thought the Cena Rock thing was going to be something like that. Instead, it was like, oh, Rock's a movie star, in case you didn't know. And Cena's the face of the WWE, in case you didn't know. And Twitter and Fruity Pebbles. Yeah. And about 57 minutes in, they were like, oh, by the way, they're having a match. Just in case you forgot, they're having a match. So I was really unimpressed with the documentary. And I didn't like the Rock concert rap battle thing that they did. I didn't like that Rock didn't respond to some of Cena's comments, like when Cena said, I was with the WWE when it wasn't cool to be in the WWE. And I'm thinking, John, you're one of the reasons it is uncool to be a WWE fan. Do you realize that? You're kind of the poster boy for uncool WWE. And, Rock was there in 96, 97 when they were getting their asses kicked by WCW. Actually, Rock was there for WrestleMania 13, which was like the ultimate low for the company, because they'd gotten their asses kicked in the buy rates by WCW Uncensored, which was a throwaway pay-per-view. I don't even remember what was on that pay-per-view, what WCW did. All I know is that WrestleMania did not do well. So Rock was there through the dark times. Maybe, he wasn't there in 95, which was really dark, but... he was there through some bad times in 97. And I also wish I wish Rock had responded to it better, but what the last segment on Raw did that was really good, in that it talked about the importance of winning, and that's something that they've really tried to sell. Both guys really want to win this match to kind of solidify their legacies and to stand up for themselves and whatever it is they believe in and whatever it is they support. And us as fans, it forces us to pick a side, which is really cool. As an Attitude Era fan, obviously I'm going to go with The Rock. I think he's cooler. I have more fond memories of him as a talent. And I think, and it is nice for Cena to have, if he's going to be the heel in this, from my point of view, it's nice to have a different reason to hate him outside of him just sucking. It's like, because for a long time it was like, I hate you because you suck. And you're uninteresting, and you're boring, and go to hell, I don't like you. Now it's kind of like, I hate you because you're running down The Rock and saying things that are untrue, which, again, I wish Rock had responded to. Again, I was here when it was uncool to be in the WWE. No, Rock was too. It's like, oh, Rock, you took up and left for Hollywood. And like, well, I'd rather have Rock stick around and no, I'd rather have Rock leave at his peak instead of stick around long after he's relevant and have him bore me to tears. Like Cena said something like, I'm just getting started. And I'm like, holy shit. Really? You have to put up with you for another decade? Put a bullet in my head right now, please. But, things like that. But it again, that whole era versus era clash thing that they have going really makes this match interesting. And again, kudos to Cena. He's really stepped up his game and really helped to sell this match as something important. And it's by far Cena's best feud for WrestleMania ever. You go back in his entire WrestleMania history, the feuds weren't that great. Say what you want about the matches. Some people were divided on a lot of his matches, but the build-ups themselves were shit for the most part, or at least uneventful. This one is really interesting, and I think this is the most interesting match for this WrestleMania for all the X factors and the excitement factor and everything else that they have built into this. So I'm really excited to see this, and I'm really interested in seeing how it turns out. Now, who's going to win? Now, common wisdom seems to point to Cena because he's the full-time guy, and it just seems like this would be his match to win. Now that there's talk that there's going to be a trilogy between the three, that kind of makes me think, well, if they're going to do 3 matches, Rock might win the first one. Cena will come out on top at the end when it's all said and done, but Rock might win the first one. And it's in his hometown of Miami, too, which makes me think maybe Rock's going to go over. I don't know. And to be honest, I would kind of mark if Rock went over, but that's just me. I have a friend who swears, and he even said it a year ago, that Rock was going to go over at Mania. So, and that's when I was saying, no way, Cena's going to win. But now I'm kind of have my doubts. And again, it's like the Punk Jericho thing I talked about. I don't know who's going to win, and that makes it more interesting. I'm still going to pick Cena to win because, as he said on Raw, and I'm glad that he pointed this out, look, you can hate me all I want, but I always win. And Cena's kind of healing it up a bit, which is kind of cool. And kind of interesting. He's pointing out the reasons why we hate him, among other things. And it's kind of made this interesting. So I'm going to pick Cena to win, but I would not be surprised if Rock won. And I do like that I don't know for sure who's going to go over. So, yeah, really good main event match. Really strong build. Mostly really strong build. And I hope it delivers, and I hope it's a really exciting match. Okay, and that is the end of my WrestleMania 28 preview. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all enjoy WrestleMania this Sunday. I am counting on it being a good show, so here's hoping the WWE puts their best foot forward. But that's all I got for now, and I'll see you all next week when it comes time to review WrestleMania.